He sure will.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
And a safety net
Wear
underneath
your
it.
safety stuff.
That motion violation always goodbye.
I call this meeting of the DISD School Board to order at 5 p.m. We do have a regularly posted agenda, and we have a quorum of our board. At this time, we are going to move to closed session, also at 5 p.m. Oh, do we have? I like to move. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so we're going into closed session at 5 p.m., number 2, which is 2A, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, superintendent search. That's it.
Duties of discussion.
Okay, and then also the discussion regarding the duties of the interim superintendent, including role in the superintendent search process. Thank you, Ms. Superintendent. Okay, we're adjourned. We are back in open session at 6:04 PM. We are at number 4, invocation. If you would please stand, and Matt, if you would lead us, please.
Will you pray with me? Father God, tonight we come to you with very, very grateful hearts. God, for our community, for our teachers, for our administrators and support staff and bus drivers and coaches and school resource officers and art teachers and band directors and administrators all over this district who are doing day in and day out what is best for kids. And that is why we exist. And that is why we give you thanks today for protecting us and for loving us, even when we miss the mark. God, we pray that you would be with us in the days to come, that you would bless each decision that's made here tonight. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
If you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have some special guests this morning from Carson Elementary. We have Azul Sandoval and Lucas Sandoval. Their parents are Christian and Rodolfo Sandoval, and they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And we're going to turn and look at the flag.
Can you have Mr. Oh, okay. Bravo. Good job, guys. Thank you. We appreciate you. Yes, we're ready. And then we'll go.
Okay.
At least I don't know.
That's No, that's fine. Okay, we're moving on to item number 6. October is District Principal Appreciation Month, and I think we're all in agreement that we very, very much appreciate our principals. They do an awesome job, all 6 of them do, and we get lots of compliments on what all you do, so we just want you to know we very much appreciate it. And if you would, if come on down, and we're going to get a picture with the board. Yeah.
And if you don't mind,
I'd
like to read a little bit something while y'all come
While
on.
you're coming down,
While you're coming on down. Oh, and I see Mr. Lackey made it. He's been in Lubbock today with the cross-country team. So we're excited. We came in 5th. Girls 5th, 3 students going to state. We're really happy for that. So let me just say a little bit, that you guys, that we have one who's not here we have 2 that aren't here, obviously, but we knew that Ms. Schisler was not going to be in town today. But we have, you play a vital role in the education of students in this community. You set the culture, you establish the foundation for the success of your schools, you serve as the backbone of your communities collectively. And the people who know you love you. They do. They respect the work you do. I wrote a few things up. If I read them, it just sounds like I'm reading. I'll just simply say you foster an environment that is second to none. It creates the energy and the motivation and the collaboration, and you inspire those you work with. So I would just say that what you do does not go unnoticed. You just heard Mr. Schultz say how much this board appreciates you. I want you to know how much those of us who have the privilege of working with you appreciate you as well. And while you're here and you get to stand and have all this stuff said to you, I will tell you that tomorrow, we have a leadership team tomorrow, and there will be some breakfast, so come hungry. We are going to spoil you with a dazzling meeting and feed you a really great lunch before you go back to the office. What more could you want during Principal Appreciation Month? So please, board members, if you would, go on down, let's get pictures with them. So let's all, and we have, who's taking the photograph for us? Okay, well, let's get on there.
I did, barely. I was coming from Lubbock, so I barely did.
Go into the hug, girl.
All right. Item 7 is public forum. We did not have anybody sign up to speak, so we will dispense with that and move on to item 8, the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Turn
Thank
that
you.
over to you, Dr.
I'm-
Rue.
First off is the fact, I see Mr. Neil back there. There he is. McNeil, I do this every time. Forgive me. I do know your name. Band competed this Saturday in Denton at the UIL regional competition. They earned the highest marks possible, straight ones. Way to go. Way to go. I mean, when we say the Decatur band rocks, they rock. They do it. They do it. And then today, cross-country team, the girls' cross-country team, and one of our young men all competed today in Lubbock. The girls came in 5th overall. The young man is going to state in 2 weeks in Round Rock, and 2 of the young ladies will also be going to state. They manage that as well. So we're really proud of our athletic department and the work they do. A couple other things. You may have seen this. You know, we've been celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. We are finishing that out Friday, the November 1st, which I guess kind of rolls over into November just a wee bit, but it's the Festival Dia de los Muertos. It will be at McCarroll Middle School. It's being hosted there, and I hope that people will come. It's from 1 to 8 that Friday afternoon, so do that. And then I had the privilege of attending Manufacturing Day, which was a joint partnership between the Decatur Economic Development Council and the CTE program. And I see Mr. Nauman back there, who did an amazing job. Our barbecue team fed the group. It was just a really, really great day, and it shows what is possible when communities work together for the benefit of students, and we enjoyed that. And you may or may not have noticed this on Facebook. Hayden Carpenter at Decatur High School was recognized by Kid Nation's Classroom Gives Back program. Oh, he's McCarroll. Oh, why did I think he was at, well, y'all know where he is. Okay. $500 that he will use to spend in his classroom. We're really proud of him, and I think that he has a chance to jump in to the next competition, which would be a greater award for him. And then one final thing, our counseling program, and I'll stop here because there's so many things I could tell you about, but the counseling program, both high school and middle school counselors have hosted secondary parent meeting, Cultivating Resilience by Preventing Bullying, and that will occur October 28th from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Decatur High School Auditorium. So for our parents who may be interested in learning more, I hope that they'll come and join us and be a part of that conversation. We're proud of each of these departments and the work they do. It's outstanding work. So thank you for letting me do a little brag board before we move on.
Thank you, Dr. Rue. Appreciate that. On to item number 9, the consent agenda. The first 9A, the memorandum, easy for me to say, of understanding with the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program.
Yeah.
Do you want to-
And those are all consent agenda. All
Okay,
three are
right.
consent agenda items.
And then, the minutes, but do you need to discuss any of those?
Not unless someone wants to pull them off
Does
the
anybody have
consent
any
agenda.
questions about any of those 3 consent items? If you've all read them, then you should know what's in there.
Yeah, otherwise we just need a motion to approve
Okay.
the consent agenda.
Does someone want to make a motion to approve that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented to the board.
We have a motion by Nate. Do I have a second?
Second?
I got a second from Matt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Very good, thank you.
All right, on to number 10, 10A, the Decatur ISD legislative priorities.
Thank you. And I believe the legislative priorities are being pulled up so the audience may also view them. As you know, the district advocates for public education. As board members, you lead in that role, and we are very much aware that legislation does impact the district's ability to meet its strategic goals. These legislative priorities are presented to you tonight as a discussion item. They are in 4 main categories: school finance, safety and security, accountability with instruction and learning, and then teacher recruitment and retention. And each of these, in their own way, discuss the issue that we have in these areas in the state, and specifically in Decatur ISD, with some proposed solutions for our legislators to consider as they look at the 800 or 1,000 plus bills that will be filed this year in a legislative session.
Okay, thank you. 10B, the campus improvement plan for 2024-2025. Dr. Wooten.
Yes. They're little windows, aren't they?
So in the board book, you had the campus plans. It was a PowerPoint presentation. In that PowerPoint presentation, thank you. In the PowerPoint presentation, the big Decatur, like the campus improvement plans, the big huge document that's like 60 pages, we condensed that down. The principals contributed to the PowerPoint, and we broke it down by the goals, which is still a very hefty document. What you have in front of you on hard copy is the campus plan 24-25, and what I did was kind of give you the cliff noted versions, with the emphasis being on the academic for each campus. And so if you look at it's a couple pages, it's like a 3-pager, not a 1-pager. What you'll see is my emphasis on the academic aspect for each one of the campuses, with the understanding that pretty much all of them in their own way, obviously each campus is unique. As far as academic goals, they're going to use goal setting with students, data meetings, formative and summative assessments we'll be looking at. The PLC meetings will be a big one. Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction is going to be a big piece, which is basically classroom instruction, just making sure that is very solid and we're covering what we need to cover, as well as determining your intervention groups. And then in addition, all of the elementary campuses are working with Great Minds. Great Minds has come out and done one full round so far of working with teachers and PLCs to answer questions as well as observations. And then they get feedback. I just had a meeting today with great minds on the feedback from the observations to give us specific feedback, which will be relayed to the principals. And so that's pretty universal across all of them. Where the differences are is with the specific goals, because it applies strictly to that campus. In addition, all the campuses are working towards a 96% attendance rate. That's a goal. We check that weekly. And of course, they're working within their budget. So I didn't highlight all of that because that's pretty universal.
Dr. Wooten, if you could make your screens smaller, I think that we'll be able to see the page on the projection.
Okay. I was
Yeah, it's falling off the page. You just, at the very bottom, you're at 276%.
Oh, there's nothing else on that side. It's just
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm blind, and so it's
Okay.
me
All
looking
right.
at it.
Got
But
it.
you're not missing anything, I promise.
All right.
And Dr. Wood, just real quick, for probably more for the benefit of the public, but I saw that's our goal is 96% for attendance, but we're actually at that, or a little
Yes,
above it right
We're a little
now.
above it, actually,
So
right now.
that's great.
So the
That's a big
principals-
improvement from last year.
Yes, and the teachers, this has been a big push, and this will continue to be a push. And that's across the board, every single campus. And so the first campus is Carson Elementary. And so you can see here with Performance Objective 1, this is where across the board they want to do a 10% increase with reading and math in each of the areas, but it's broken down by approaches, meets, and masters as far as where they are. I do want to take a second just to say, when you look at this and you look at that page, you see that it's very specific with Carson. Carson is on a comprehensive targeted improvement plan based on the previous year's data, in particular the Closing the Gaps domain. And so with their data, we need to be very precise because we're not doing two different documents, like a TIP plan as well as a campus plan. We're doing one plan, and so it needs to be reflective of that, because we'll be turning in updates in November, I believe is the first one, and then again in January. Now, this plan was worked on last year. We have a TEA call tomorrow just for a follow-up to make sure all the details are there. But we worked with a representative from Region 11 that works with TIP, and so Craig and I were part of that last year, and then of course that continues over this year, and it is the same coach. Her name's Jill, and so we'll be continuing to work with her. I just wanted I wanted to say that just because you'll see 90% and 80%, this is specific for a reason. And then with Ennis, she has her goals here with 100% of 4th and 5th grade students will make a year's growth as measured by reading and math. Reading and math are the focus across all campuses. And then when she's talking about 43% full or partial, we're looking specifically, one of the focuses this year has been on student population, so that every teacher, every administrator knows exactly if there's a sub-pop that particular students fell in, where they were, what the point value was, what our goal is to work forward. So when you see that, that's what that means. With Rayanne, you'll see the same thing. With approaches, meets, and masters, 5 to 10%, depending upon the category of where we're working towards. Is that okay? Okay. Some were. Some, yes, in the sense of reading and math being the focus, not necessarily the same percentages. We're basing it on the actual data. And like I said, sub-pops in particular are going to be a big. Yes. Yes. And for some, I'm very well aware that you're going to see some that are a little lofty. I recognize that, but I also recognize the fact that when you shoot, for the moon, you land on stars. And so I don't think that's a bad thing. I think when we're in and dealing with and talking with our students, and we're setting goals for our students, those need to be very realistic because you want to avoid any kind of frustration. But to always kind of have that out there, that that's the expectation, I don't think is a bad thing. That's one of the reasons why I was talking about Carson being a little bit different, just because I have to be very precise with that one.
Let me just interject. There's, we've heard of SMART goals for a long time, and there's a shift to FAST goals, and that's frequently discussed, coming back
Yes, it is.
periodically. Ambitious, that they are specific, we know exactly what we're shooting for, and that they're quite transparent, clearly communicated, and a lot of optimistic dialogue about getting them done.
And as we gather more data, I mean, those are the conversations we have. But I also think it's beneficial to have conversations like that, because if we're not quite where we need to be, it keeps it in the forefront so that we are strategizing, we're figuring out what could be next steps, what could work, in the hopes that ultimately that is where we land. And then these are Youngs with 80% of all pre-K students will meet grade level expectations with Circle PM. You're going to see kind of the breakdown with our 75% of third, fourth, and fifth graders will be at meets. And so these are specific to the campuses and where the campuses are. So McCarroll, that's our reading language arts. The same thing that's written out, just because we are talking SMART goals, is in the table. So it's a little bit easier for you to see. And then with the with the high school. And then with the high school, same thing here. Questions with that? And then all of these are on, it's in your board book, so you can see if, I know it's a lot to kind of take in, and it's a lot of information, but if questions come up, you're going to do the same thing that you did with the district plan, and you'll let Dr. Rue know, and then we'll have discussions, and we'll move on from there.
Michelle, what is, on one of these performance objective 1, it says fourth and fifth grade students will make a year's growth as measured by reading and math star. What's a year's growth?
So, good question. So wherever they ended last year, as far as, and it could range, I'm going to say in this particular case, and I don't want to misspeak, so if you want to, anybody wants to chime in, I'm going to say a year's growth at the elementary would be where ISIP is, because you get a really good read of where they are with reading and moving on. So it'd be a year from that end point at the end of the year. Same thing with ISIP math. If it's STAR, that's a little bit hairier. But which one were you looking at?
So you're talking about gaining,
Which campus?
Gaining a year's worth of academic growth. Now, we do have some students who need to accelerate. They may be
Correct.
They may really need to make a year and a half's gain in order to get caught up with their grade level. And so you're looking at progress toward that goal. And they, so it's not just simply that year's growth time over time from second to third or fifth to whatever, but there's some acceleration and some intervention that allows them to jumpstart and move a little faster than that.
Same thing with our students that are in special programs. The IEPs will reflect a year's growth from where they ended to where they're starting as well. Any other questions?
Okay.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wooten. Moving on to 10C, which is overview on developing next year's calendar. Dr. Rue, do you want to take the lead on that?
That's me.
Or is that you too? Okay. Okay.
And what allow me to say that as we look at the development of a calendar in any given year, it does require some background work on the part of the staff to make that happen. There are some timelines, and if you'll pull that into slide mode rather than into the slideshow mode, it'll be easier for people to see it. And then go into, there we go, thank you. Okay, so this is an overview of the work that would need to be done and completed, and the timeline it would need to be completed within in order to create next year's calendar. There is a conversation around the work that had been done previously in the district to identify a 4-day calendar in the next school year. Of course, we know that the decision of a calendar is at the consideration approval of this year's school board, so we certainly understand that. What we are showing you is what it would take to create that, and then look for direction from the board as we move forward.
So a little bit of background, because some are new to the board from what was discussed last year. So school districts with 4-day weeks, and this is as of October 3rd. 108 school districts across Texas have now switched to a 4-day, while at least 21 other districts offer what they would consider a hybrid schedule.
And as I understand it, this is information you shared last year. Is that correct?
This is last year's, however, I updated this particular slide just because we had information. We would be considered a hybrid, yeah. Good question. And so the 23-24 calendar was a 40% 4-day, 24-25 calendar is a hybrid calendar with 50% 4-day weeks. And one thing I do want to emphasize, because I do think there's some miscommunication out there, this is not a 4-day calendar. This year is not a 4-day calendar. Teachers were still required to have 187 days, and so that's where you see your PD days coming in. What that allowed for is for parents, to get a little bit more familiar with what a 4-day would look like, but it didn't change things per se for teachers, other than I have more PD days, and campuses have more PD days to work with their teachers. The other thing that we changed this year was the start times. We pushed those back so it wasn't a big shock to the system to hit a 4-day, plus you're changing your times and extending and all of that. So that's why this is a hybrid, but by no means is it a 4-day. 187 days is what the teachers had.
That is correct, not with this board. That's what all the work is being done right now to, in case we do get to that, but that vote for that probably won't take place until January. That's fine.
Go back to that.
Well, hold on a second, guys.
Go back.
Stan, correct me on why we did not, that we advised the district to go to 4-day starting next year. And the reason why we put off to next year is because several departments needed more planning time. So the planning time has to be produced right now. We need to see that results. I need to see that every department is planning properly.
That's what this is.
Well, what you made it sound like we haven't voted for. We haven't voted for the actual, what that calendar is going to look like, but the concept has been voted on.
You cannot have a prior board hold a current board to that vote.
Well, it'd be no different than approving a bond or anything else. This is the direction that the board approved the district to go, and
that
for
is
long-range planning.
Right.
And this is what we're doing.
But
So the calendar is what we vote on. The concept is what we need the district to know, that we're shifting directions. So that's the planning, because we weren't able to do that quick enough last year, because that's the only reason I didn't vote on. Didn't vote.
it did come for a vote and the vote was voted down.
No, actually Stan voted for it.
And the three of you voted it down.
We
for
voted,
25,
we wanted
26.
it last year. We wanted to start this.
You
current
voted it
calendar.
down for this year,
Correct.
too.
We wanted to
So
start
that's
this
why
current calendar year, is what we were wanting to start right away with it. And you guys wanted more time. The district wanted more time. Several departments wanted more time, and that's what we voted for.
three of the 4 people that voted for that are no longer on the board.
Correct.
So we have 3 new board members, we have a new superintendent, half of our team of 8 is turned over, and that vote back then, it was confusing. You have to admit it was confusing because you voted against it.
No, I voted against
No,
it.
you-
Purposeful. I know what I voted for. I didn't want to start 25, 26. I wanted to start this year. That's what I voted for.
But that failed.
Correct. And so you voted to start this coming cycle.
And you voted against
And
it.
we have to plan for that. And that's the prior proper planning has to be done.
So-
And we need to see that planning. I need to see a Gantt chart. I need to see deadlines. I need to see the accountability measures. And so far today, I have not seen a single accountability measure saying that we have gotten to where we're at ARDS meetings, all of the stuff. I need to see that scheduled out so that we can make sure we don't miss anything so that we're successful.
That is what is being worked on now.
I mean,
Correct.
I'm new on this board, and I didn't know that we were 4-day until last week, whenever I got word of DIC meetings, because whenever I had my district orientation with Dr. Jones, he told me that that was not a valid vote, and it was not moving forward with a 4-day, so it would have to be re-voted on again. So in my mind right now, as it sits, we're still 5-day unless this board feels otherwise, and we make that decision, which looks like in February. I'm all for starting the planning
If you
process
wait till
to do
February,
this.
we're back to where we were last year. That's what happened. And then if you don't plan now, you can't produce.
Do you know, that is exactly what we're doing. The difference between this year and last year is last year, to be honest, and I'm trying to be confrontational, but I had no idea we were going to a 4-day till you brought it up at a meeting. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, we're going to a 4-day, I want to vote on it, and then get to the planning. So what we're doing now, we're in October, we're 4 months prior to that, we're doing all the planning right now. And then we will make that decision in February.
So
if
you're
we're going forward
you're
with that.
leaving the district in limbo if we may or may not until.
Not leaving it in
Because we've
limbo.
already, it's a 4-day. What that 4-day calendar looks like, it could be 2 different 4-day calendars, but it's a 4-day calendar.
Right, it's
The
a
start date,
hybrid
the
right
finish
now.
date. Yes, correct.
Right,
But
so-
the concept of, because it changes logistics of so much. It changes just for what folks are planning to do with their kiddos on the Friday. If churches are going to set up things for Friday, it's for the district to wait or to act like you're going to possibly not do it. That's not what we're doing.
It is not fair to the new board members for them to be held to what a prior board did. So you can argue this all day, but you're never going to get me to admit or to get that that decision is already made and then this board has to be held to that. We may very well go to a 4-day. We're not saying we're not going to. We're just saying, well, let's do all the planning, let's do all the everything for that and have it done. And then we will, if that's the direction that the majority of this board goes forward in February,
You
we'll do that.
voted to start
And
next year.
Scott, you voted against it.
Excuse me,
You
you
voted
voted to
against
start next year a 4-day calendar. Now, the calendar hasn't been approved. The 4-day, the district is charged to produce a 4-day calendar for us to approve.
Let's move on. Thank you.
Sandy, you had something to say.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't vote for it, it still passed. I mean, I do feel like we're kind of playing with the community. If we're doing this back and forth, we're playing with teachers, we're playing with community, we're playing with businesses because they're also a major part of this. And I mean, I get it, we have 3 board members that are new, but I would rather not play with the community. I'd rather, have to stick through this. I understand you guys weren't here for that vote, but I don't want to risk our community and our teachers and.
I don't
mean,
think
like,
we're risking. I think
what are-
we're being very prudent
I think,
as far as the planning right now.
I was here for that February meeting, and the resounding theme is we got to do this because budgetary reasons, and we're not giving pay raises, and we're not giving longevity checks.
That-
Well,
that
guess
was
what?
a-
We actually did both of those things this last year. So, Scott, I went back and watched the video. There was multiple
what
times
about-
where that was
Those
said.
are-
What
they're
about
all a bunch of
teacher
wins, yes.
retention? I think that was a very, very, very big one.
Correct.
Because we cannot attract the same teachers that Northwest ISD can attract. We are very competitive with them, and they can pay a heck of a lot more than we can. We want highly qualified teachers. What do we have to offer? How do we say we would rather you come here than go down the road? I mean, I said the exact same words 6 months ago.
Finance said they needed more time to set up their 4-day, and then the SPED and the ARDS needed more time. They said they could do it, but they said they needed more time. That was the only reason, was that we needed more time. We didn't sit there and say, we're gonna wait for a new board to maybe not do it. We said, district, do it, and we need to see that production now, and that's what so many of the departments are working on, and they've done the work, they're doing the homework now. We just need to see the accountability measures as a board.
I'd be curious to know how many teachers left Decatur this summer and went to Northwest or Keller.
Well,
not
I
Keller,
don't
but
necessarily
not
have those numbers, but if it's okay, I'm going to go back to the planning in answer to what Mr. Bayless said. DIC, we are moving in those planning stages for a 4-day as of right now. That's what we're moving towards. And in DIC, because I'm the one that does DIC, it was clearly stated if anything was to change, then we pivot and we do whatever direction we need to go into based on what the board decides. But from a planning perspective, it's 4-day.
Just to be clear, I was not asking the question to be argumentative. I was asking for clarification, because I think the community is under the impression that we're moving to a 4-day. But that was news to me. That was news to me.
I spoke with the prior president just today, and regardless of, I think we can all say that was a confusing vote. It was a confusing day. I mean, you have to admit it because you guys voted against it, right? I mean, you were confused. I was confused. But when I talked to him, his intention was that it was a recommended that we look for doing a 4-day for the 25, 26, but it was not actually definitive. Because again, I mean, think about that. If we decide stuff today and 2 years from now, another board gets up here and wants to change it, they can change that. They can change whatever. I admit I don't want to confuse I do not want to confuse the district, and there has been confusion. But I think by properly stating that we are doing everything we can in the planning stages right now here in October to make a final decision in February that will put this to rest one way or the other.
So I would like you to look at the planning timeline. And you see that C&I really does have a lion's share of the work that needs to get done. One of the things that we will look at, and I'll just interject this quickly, Dr. Wooten, and then step back and let you finish. We want to survey our community and our staff for feedback on this calendar. What do we need to know that we may not have known when the calendar was created? Do we have our child care needs being met, our nutrition needs over a long weekend being met? What are the things there that we would need to know to be effective in planning? We are looking, can we minimize route times? That's a possibility, and we're looking at that. The DEIC would continue its work through December. In January, the board would look at a proposed calendar. Our community would give us a survey on what those options might be, and it would come back to the board in February. Now, that is just a sort of a simplistic timeline of actions regardless of what the calendar looks like. These are things that would need to take place and be done. So why don't you go in and show the things that would need attention for the calendar, whether it's, in my opinion, whether it's 4-day or not. These are things that need to be done.
Okay, so like Dr. Roos said, curriculum instruction have a big piece of this. And so there were things that we needed to put into place. There were things that we needed to plan for, with the biggest one being special education. One of the concerns that had come up is just trying to get all of those ARDs in, because you plan a year in advance, essentially, or 6 months in advance, depending upon when that ARD falls and what it's for. And so beginning in October, so it's already started, annual ARDs will be written to reflect a schedule of services for the 4-day work week. And the speech department is currently transitioning to a 3-to-1 service delivery model, with minutes provided 3 out of the 4 weeks a month. So essentially what that means is, and just so you know, there's been multiple meetings with Region 11, other special ed, TCASE, all of those things. That 3-to-1 model is what is being recommended across the board, regardless of if we went, 3 days a week or 7 days a week. And so 3 out of 4 is where they get the direct therapy and direct interaction, whether that's group or individual. And the last week, those therapists would be working with the teachers, because the bulk of the time that those kiddos are in classrooms, you want to make sure that what's being taught is being followed through with in the classrooms. Another question that had come up was child nutrition. And so in talking with Liz Hubbard from Feeding Wise Kids, big concern with the at-risk population was not being fed on Fridays. We would continue to partner with that organization. We currently partner with that organization and Feeding Wise Kids Backpack Buddies to provide a meal for students who are on free or reduced lunch to take home on Thursdays. It might be Wednesdays. It just kind of depends on the day that she sets up with us to ensure that those, and it would just be delivered to us if it wasn't on that Thursday, that Wednesday, and we'd keep them so that they went home with them on Thursdays.
Did they foresee any issue with adding that extra day's meal, so they can accommodate that? Okay.
They can accommodate that.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes, good question. And so these were the other question was just childcare and where we go. Obviously, Learning Ladder branches off of Decatur, so we have touched base with them where they can extend some of the open positions or slots in order to accommodate some of that childcare. These are some other childcare facilities that we'll be looking into. Last year, when we started talking to some of these individuals, a lot of it was nothing was set at that time when we were going over things for them to say, okay, this is what the calendar looks like, this is what we need, because that's not where we were. And so we'll be reaching back out to see if these are potentials or possibilities. And of course, I'm asking anybody and everybody if there's other ones that we want to add to that list, just to let me know. I'm going to go back to home. The other thing, too, that I'm going to go over real quick before I have Kyle come up here is, in attending some of the PTO meetings, First DIC, you have great feedback from these community committees. Just so that you can see, when we gave the original survey, there was 2,043 total responses. When we broke that down, 1,473 were parent and guardian, 256 were employee only, 200 were employee and also a parent, as they have identified, and then 114 were community members, non-parent, non-employee. One of the questions that we had asked is, which schedule do you agree with regarding a possible 4-day instructional week? 11% said they would be in favor of 4-day if there was childcare provided. 62% said they're in favor of 4-day regardless if childcare was provided. And then we also asked about Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, what was their preference? 56% said Monday through Thursday. Tuesday through Friday was 18%, and then that solid 25% in both of those cases were not in favor of a 4-day. And so there was a question on a scale of 1 to 10, extremely favorable to you're not in favor at all. That was a 68% overall that were in favor. And then November 24th, the survey that Dr. Rue talked about will collect staff and parent feedback for this current calendar to find out what's working, what's not working, what seems to be concerns, so that those concerns that are brought up, we can work through that through DIC to come up with potential solutions. And those that, if there's not any issues, well then, that's great.
What's the cost of this next survey?
Of doing the survey? The survey is an online survey, so it's just the cost of the software to do the survey.
And Kyle, you want to come up? I just moved you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Schultz, Dr. Rue. Thank you again for letting me come here and just present a few minutes of how the 4-day week may affect operations, some of the considerations that we are looking at because of the 4 or 5 day. For transportation, we're looking at guaranteeing 6.25 hours for a 4-day and not the 5 hours that we normally give. We're also looking at No change in the overtime eligibility if we do that. If we raise their employee rate up, hourly rate, then it would affect more hours that they would work and would be an added cost. Custodial, one of the considerations we're looking at is a 4 10-hour day with 1 or 2 fifth-day floaters to compensate the needs for facility rentals and things like that. Maintenance, we're actually looking, and one of the considerations is keeping the normal 5-day work week for maintenance, because it would show a reduced amount of overtime, where now I have 2 days for emergencies. That overtime, I would have 3 days to pay overtime for emergencies because of the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Also, it gives us more flexibility for urgent repairs, preventative maintenance, and better productivity, because we would have a full day in the school to get stuff done without students being there. One of the challenges in operations is actually getting into the classroom to do the repairs, and so that would kind of help. Also, we are looking at transportation routes. Our goal is to minimize the amount of time students are on the bus. So some of the considerations we're looking at is for budget planning is additional buses and additional staff that we would need for that. And the last thing here is my assessment shows that on the operations side, now this may be counteracted on the finance side because we're not driving as many miles, but on the operations side, we would have a fuel savings, we would have operational cost savings, and the extended life building of equipment, meaning if my 20-year HVAC replacement life cycle now maybe 24 years because of we're not using it on that 5th day, putting a load on it. My 20,000-mile tires now go to 22,000 miles, and so we get more extended life out of our equipment, and so it would be a savings there. And do you have any questions on that?
Considerations.
All right, thank you.
Like we discussed last time, we would have new duty day calendars for everyone, but we've worked through Skyward to figure out the best way to do that. And then we would have new work schedules for the non-exempt staff, which we've already worked through that as well. I have talked to TASB about the revision of the compensation plan. The only plan that would have to be revised would be the administrative professional, because the auxiliary and the instructional non-exempt calendar would still remain at 37.5 hours, and their hourly rate wouldn't change. So there's no need to adjust those schedules. Where's the map? Oh, the substitute rate would have to go from $90 a day to $102, because they would be working 8.5 hours instead of 7.5 hours. And then we would monitor the number of subs used monthly just to see where we're at on if there's going to be any savings on the subs right now. And so we would look at that to see if it is on a Friday that we aren't going to school, how many of the subs we would save. Most of them would be athletics on a Friday, and then just see if now Thursday doesn't have more absences. So we would monitor that on a monthly basis. And then the other thing just to note is that the years of serviceable credit to get to the 90 days actually worked, normally that is at a semester, because normally your kids are in school and you work 90 days by December at the end of the semester. We would be considered a non-standard work calendar, so teachers who wanted to retire mid-year, that wouldn't be possible until probably, depending upon the calendar that you adopt, around February. So they could not retire at semester, if that was a consideration, just to note it for y'all. But other than that, everything else would continue on.
How many substitute days are we using right now? Or do you use minutes or days on substitutes?
Days.
How many days?
Days and
how many
half days.
days are we currently occurring, I should say?
I didn't bring that in here. with me. I have those numbers, but I don't
Well,
have that.
just by chance, I spoke with Mrs. Culpepper this morning about substitutes and how, what that's looking like for us right now. And as we get deeper into the year, I'll do this caveat first, as we get deeper into the year, we have more students participating in competitions, going to other events, and that would require more substitutes than we might normally have. So most of September we had pretty much like 10% subs, 90% of our staff here. As we're getting deeper into the year with more activities, with student activities, we're around 81, 82% of our staff on a given day that are here.
And then one of the, I forgot to click on the other aspect of mine. I was worried about the little house and making sure everybody else had theirs. So additional things that we did from a curriculum and instruction, teaching, learning spot is some of the summer PD with May and June. We started those discussions with planning adjustments, scope and sequence. One of the big areas is the TEKS resource system. So TEKS resource system is used K through 12 with more, it's heavier in the secondary, but all of your curriculum and content is housed inside TEKS resource. And now they have the ability where you enter in your calendar, and that calendar will shoot out a scope and sequence based on where everything is supposed to be, which is a huge help, regardless, wherever, any calendar. And then we're currently coordinating with HMH just to see, as they have some districts that have gone 4-day, to see if they have any tricks up their sleeve as far as like what works, what didn't work, what would be the best review of things. And then with the reduction in the number of school days, obviously that impacts the number of days that instruction can happen in a classroom. And so CBAs are changed from 6 to 9 weeks. And then we did remove the November interim testing just because they're tested on a lot of stuff that they haven't even covered yet. So that seemed like a good place to start. And then...
And would you define CBA for us?
So that's basically like a cumulative based assessment. And so essentially every 9 weeks, wherever they are on the content that has been taught is what they're assessed on, which is different than an interim, because interim is, and we're still doing Starlight questions when we do that, but the interim is like an actual Starlight test. And so that's on all content across the board. And then with CTE funding, one of the questions was, would that be affected? That will not negatively be impacted. And then implemented an updated schedule. I already talked about that with just the adjusted schedule at start times. And that's ours. And yeah, that's the big. I did put in other Texas districts with calendars so that you kind of see the various different ones just for your own reference. And then this was a draft one that we worked off of when we were with DEIC. So this was what we were looking at last year as far as minutes go. And the days that they would have, the days that the kids would be in, the days that the teachers would be in. And then we would go to 9-week grading periods so that we had enough time. Now, that doesn't change things that we have to report for attendance and things of that nature, but we would go to 9-week grading periods. And so these are currently the things that we're planning for, because curriculum instruction has the big piece of this, so that if it's decided, I guess, to go to the 4-day, then that's where we are.
Those are the considerations that would need to be made in the creation of a calendar. Okay.
So as of right now, this district we don't have timelines, we don't have Gantt charts put together, we don't have scheduling put together for planning purposes. We're assuming that the board may not adopt this now. This is not what I was under the impression of. I read it in the paper that we're going to 4-day weeks.
Why do you assume that we're not going to go there?
Because of your words.
No, that's not what my words are. Don't twist my words. My words are that last year, there was you rushed a vote on this in February, and we had a discussion and action all in the same meeting. We were not ready last year. We voted against it to do it for 24-25. What we are doing now is doing all the work that if we were going to do it for 24, 25, should have been done back in the fall, which is what we're doing now for the possibility of going to it to 25, 26. My mind is very open about this. That's why we're doing the work now. We need to make sure that we have everything, all our Ts crossed, all our Is dotted, before we actually make that final vote, which will be in February.
Okay, so where is that accountability measure so that we can see where we're at on each department? If we're 10%, 20%, 100%, because every department has work to do. So I need to see that accountability measure so that we can say that we are ready to go. Because evidently that's your concern, is we're making sure we're ready to go. I want to make sure we're ready to go. So where is that at?
Yep, we have a timeline right there.
So essentially, from a timeline perspective, we started, curriculum and instruction started, I'm going to say June, July, getting things in place, talking to TEACS Resource, talking to HMH. That is going to be ongoing throughout the school year. The survey is expected to go out in November for feedback on this current calendar about how those days in which they have PD and they're going to are working. What do we like, what do we don't like, to get feedback as we create the upcoming calendar. HR and finance is going to begin their teacher schedules, salary schedules, all the things that they need to be working on that Cindy talked about is going to start in December, and that is going to go into May, June. And then transportation, once they get the routes, they kind of know where all those things are going and what they're looking at. That's going to be a November deal that he's going to spend the bulk of his time. Now, DIC started in October. We had our first meeting. That will continue through October, November will be all those discussions of creation, what we're looking at, getting feedback. The survey results will come into DIC, also play a role where they'll look at that and see what other modifications, adjustments. The proposed calendar is going to come up in January with a vote in February.
So
does that answer the question?
It sounds to me like it may be a 4-day or may not be. If it's a 4-day, we're just deciding what that 4-day calendar is, because you can have 10 different 4-day calendars, that's fine. But otherwise, right now, I don't know what you're going to put in the paper, but it's probably going to be like DISD doesn't know if they're going to do a 4-day or not, because that's what I don't know right now. So what I want to know is, are we doing it? And if we're not, then I want to put it on the agenda for next month to get this nipped in the bud so we can plan properly. I don't want to be limbo and wonder in February if we're going to do a 4-day.
I think it's sort of insulting that you think that the administration right now is not doing all the work. They are doing the work. They're working really hard. They have a lot of meetings. They're planning for every contingency. And I expect this to be very buttoned up by the time it comes in front of the board. But it's not there today. It wasn't there back in February. That's why we voted it down in February, because we were not ready. At least the majority believed that was not ready then. So now we are doing all the work that should have been done a year ago if we were going to do it then. And this is the normal time frame. If you talk to school districts that have gone to a 4-day, they didn't do it in a month. They didn't even do it in a year. They thought and planned this for 2 years before they actually went to it. Okay, well, I talked to them, so you can talk to who you talk to, but I talked to several school districts, including Athens ISD, that we did a deal, and they said they took 2 years to do it. Do you remember that?
Stan?
I have a question.
Yes. And then I think you do.
When we do the survey that goes out, you said it's going to go out in November. We're going to ask for comments, whatever, about how this calendar is working.
Yes.
Are we going to ask the question again, are you in favorable for a 4-day calendar, 4-day week calendar? Will that question be posed again?
My understanding,
because I would be
and you
interested
can
in
correct
knowing
me,
to
Dr.
see if
Rue, is that
this still has community support.
is that this is going to be a survey that goes out to see how parents and community are adapting to this year's calendar.
Can we not ask if, given this calendar, is it still a favorable thing? I mean, because obviously, if it's not a favorable thing for this community, then that, maybe it needs to be.
Right. And certainly
I'm
that
just,
that can be
but if it
framed.
is, then if we're having these conversations, and because to me, if I'm watching at home, and I've been told, oh yeah, we're going to this 4-day school week, they're preparing, I've lost a lot of faith and and the board's lost a lot of credibility in going back and forth. Does that make sense?
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
I don't want to look like an idiot up here.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us want to look like idiots up here. But we're going to look like idiots up here if we are waffling.
The intent of that survey in November is to be specific. We have 51% of the weeks this year are 4-day weeks. So it will be, how's that working? Are you finding childcare? Are your food needs being met? Is this, it was a hybrid calendar. Give us feedback about that informs it. A very simple thing that our principals discussed was on the calendar we state that the Fridays that are off this year are student holidays. Well, that has an impact on the observation windows that principals can use in the buildings. We should name it something else. There are things that we can do that will make any calendar better for us.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
I'm just asking, are we going to ask the question again?
and we certainly could say, given where you are now, are you still in favor, having experienced it this year? Why not? We could do that.
For whatever it's worth, and it may not be worth anything, I would be more in favor of ramping this schedule up to where we can vote on this sooner than later. If I were a teacher or an administrator in this district, this would be wearing me out.
Oh, I'd be mad right now.
Speaking from
I am
someone who is helping to facilitate all of the calendar stuff, I would not be sad about ramping this up, because either way you look at it, there are timelines that have to be met, regardless of the calendar that is going to be moved forward with, that we have to make sure is in place so that we can get our jobs done. And it's same thing with teachers, same thing across the board.
When did DEIC first start working on the concept of a 4-day schedule?
It would have been last year, back in, I want to say around October. And here's the other thing too, if you want, I have that original PowerPoint that was very in-depth, dove into everything from academics to synopsis of what every district said about it, trials and tribulations. I'd be happy to send to all of you, if you want, so you can kind of see some of the information that was transpired. I just put in key pieces to get the discussion going, knowing that the planning side of things was
Has to
the
get
topic
done.
of conversation.
And that's what we wanted to do, is an overview of the planning and the timeline necessary. I do think that the survey that was done last year with roughly 2,000 respondents is significant. That is a excellent return on a survey. So you do have that information to use as a foundation for the work that's being done this fall.
So to Sandy's point on the survey, if we kept the timeline as it is right now, and the feedback came back from the community and everybody else that they didn't like the 4-day, they want to go back to a 5-day, do we have time from that November survey, DEIC, to implement a new 5-day working calendar for board approval in February?
At November? If I got that information by
Well,
November?
The survey says we're doing it in November. So if we get the information back and everybody says, no, we actually want to do the 5-day, it says board approval for calendar in February is 3 months with Christmas break in there. Is that enough time to scrap all the work that you've done for the past 4 months and start working on a new 5-day calendar?
Yes. It would be a crunch. I'm not saying it's not going to be a crunch. I am going to say it would be very difficult if we bounce back and forth and then all of a sudden January we're still not sure, and then to try and pivot in a month, it's not going to happen. There's no way. And so, I mean, that's why I agree with Dr. Joyner on if we're pending a decision based on the plans that we have to get together, then I'd rather have the decision much sooner than later, so we can do our very best job.
If I'd known this was even an issue, I placed this on the agenda for this month. If I'd known this was even a concern, I would have put it on this summer. I would have put it on end of the spring. It would have been, it was in the paper. It was my assumption. I believe most of the board at the time's assumption starting next year. This was going to be happening, and we needed to have time to do prior proper planning, and that's what the district's doing. I love it. It's excellent. I just want to see the timelines. I want to see the outliers of what little bit is not in place, maybe in transportation, so that we can help facilitate those things that aren't ready. But the idea that we may decide not to do something because of a new survey, we've made decisions, and that's our job to make tough decisions, and we've already made them. And now it's time to implement it, put it in place, see best practices, and move forward.
Except that 3 people were not part of that decision. So, and they want to say so in that, one way or the other. And again, that sounds like a broken record, but we're doing all the work that probably should have been done a year ago if we were remotely considering it last year. So I feel like we're being very prudent. I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm just a glass half full, and you guys are seeing it half empty, that this is a negative. I think this is a positive. I see all the work that's being done through the administration. If we need to adjust the timelines, I mean, I think that's something that I guess is,
We don't want it later than February.
No, not later. It's like if you feel, but are you saying
If you wanna move
that
it-
you think that the
you were talking
decision needs to
about
be made,
moving it-
like, say, January?
Moving it back, and
I don't think the negative is the planning. I think the negative is the blind side. And I'm not saying you are trying to blindside. What I'm saying is those that were under the impression, possibly including the community, to feel like we're moving in a direction and then all of a sudden go, oh, well, that didn't count. And by the way, Dr. Jones told me that was not a valid vote and we weren't doing it. Like, that's news to me, that he told you that or told, but that,
Can't speak
I don't
to
think that.
who else he talked to, but he 100% told me that.
Right, but I think that's the negative feeling, is not the honesty.
And I don't disagree with you that hindsight's 2020 was the February meeting kind of, not done well or right.
Well, there's no such thing per the TA of the state of a 4-day, 5-day. We're all minutes. The concept was motioned, it was voted down, and then it was continued, the same topic, it was the same timeline, and it was recommended. Again, you're not implementing a thing that the state has as policy. We're telling the district, this is the direction we're going, long-range planning, no different than the long-range planning we're just producing right now with the facilities. We said, this is where we're going, and now we've had turnover with leadership, turnover with board leadership, and that's the whole point, is being stable and saying you're going to do something and then following through on it. And that was voted in by you, by the board president. And you can try to say however you want to. You voted for starting next year. So we need to stand our ground, do what we say we're going to do, and do a good job at it, where everybody's 110% backing what we said we're going to do so that we can succeed instead of fail.
Scott, using your argument, okay, you want to hold me to that vote, right? Then do I hold you 3 to your vote? Because you voted against it.
I voted
You
against
voted
the
against it.
timeline.
Nope.
Yes, I did.
I've got it right here. You voted against, the 3 of you voted against implementing for a 4-day week for the 25-26. So would
Correct.
you admit that you were confused?
Correct, and I lost and you won.
But the 3, okay, then if we're going to hold that vote, then it's 3-1 against even doing it for 25-26, because those 3 are gone.
Stan, this is silly.
No, it is
The board
silly. It's
set
not silly.
precedents. It was a quorum that voted and said, starting next year, district now has put the work in, and now we need to let the community know this is what we're doing. What that 4-day calendar looks like, I don't know yet, and we'll vote on that, but it's a 4-day calendar. That's what we're doing.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, we can sit here and argue all day. You have one point of view, I have one point of view. It's not, this is a discussion item, it's not an action item. If you want to put it on the action item for next month, I guess you have that right to do it. I think the direction that we're going, the only thing I would say is if that you feel, or if the administration feels that they'd rather the board not wait until February, that they'd rather us, am I hearing, and please correct me if I'm hearing that wrong. But
the
is that
sooner I have a definitive answer.
right? So if you say, I don't
agree
know
with-
that we can move it, exponentially all the way to November.
No.
Yeah.
We could
No.
move it so that we bring it to the board in December for consideration
Okay.
and a vote for approval in January. We could get there from here.
Okay. I mean, I want to give you guys enough time to do everything that you need to do to have all the answers and say, look, once you vote, if the vote is for it, then to move forward at that point. But all the work, not all the work, but a lot of the work would already have been done by then,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
And that's what we're
There'll be
moving
things
towards.
we'll be reversing.
And it guides the work that would be ongoing throughout the spring semester in preparation for next year.
And I'm fine with that. So if you guys want to come back with a revised timeline, we're open.
Shift it a little bit if we need to.
it's easy. It's just colored box goes one direction or the other.
Okay.
Michelle, how many more, or Fridays would we be off between this year and next year, going to the hybrid of the 4-day? We're in, no.
I know this year's calendar, staff days was still the 187, student days was 165. I would have to count up what remains as far as those Friday go. And I did pull up like the total minutes. So this year would be 465 minutes a day per, each day. In a, technically like a 4-day. And I'm using this, which is not a definite calendar because DIC did not create that calendar. But if we were looking at the minutes, it'd be 495. And so this year's calendar is 76,725 minutes, because remember, we operate in minutes, not days. And then the 5-day based on what, or 4-day based on what we were looking at through DIC last year was 76,230 minutes. So essentially, you're talking a 1-day difference of doing 5-day, 4-day, based on how we have it right now, which is really a hybrid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? Because I'm
Yes.
gonna be honest, there's,
And when you go back to the slide, one of the things, we're doing a lot of back and forth here, but the people have already spoken. And I believe my job is to listen to
This
that
one?
survey. Yes, thank you. That survey has already been done. And the people of Decatur ISD have spoken. I don't feel that I need to go backwards and revisit that. That's just my personal feeling. It's already done.
so, anything else?
No. Appreciate it and all the work you guys are doing.
Okay, thank you.
Number 12, information items, 12A, the E-rate annual report.
Oh, we skipped the
Did I
action
skip?
items. I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
11. Yeah, grade
Oh,
11.
sorry.
That's okay.
I did. I went right over that. Apologize.
That's no problem.
Okay. Item number 11, the action item is 11A, discuss and take possible action regarding the bilingual ESL 2024-2025 waiver.
No problem.
Oh, so this is not a presentation, I have one for the evaluation, but for the waiver.
Why don't you
So,
just close those off? Can you just get rid of them? We have all these screens sitting there.
yeah, I might have,
Thank you.
nope, they're all still there, okay. So for the bilingual ESL waiver, this waiver we submit to the state. They actually changed the format on how that has to happen. It needs to go through Teal now. I believe you have a copy of the items that would be included with that. HR works with the curriculum and instruction department to compile that information together. But essentially what it means is this waiver is for any teacher, if they are in a bilingual classroom and they teach bilingual, but they are not certified, we have to do a waiver for that, and the same thing with ESL. So currently, we have 14 teachers that are not certified ESL that are with ESL students, and we have 3 bilingual teachers that are not certified yet that we need to do a waiver for that are in a bilingual classroom. And so that is what this item is for.
But do clarify that the 14 teachers out of the 200 plus is any teacher who teaches
You could have one
English language
student.
arts, and
Yep.
they might have one ESL student in their classroom, and they may not be ESL certified themselves as the teacher. And it's not as though we've got 14 people teaching a classroom full of ESL students who is not certified.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Rowe.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Are we doing anything to incentivize getting these employees certified?
Yes, so there is a bilingual stipend, and Meredith, you want to chime in?
Are we seeing
In a-
any traction with that? Are we, what's the
have less this
timeline
year.
to get certified? I don't know if we have people that are interested.
Yes.
And we do.
And we did reduce the number of teachers that were not certified last year to this year. So there was a reduction.
And additionally, teachers can receive those endorsements or certifications online. Many of them are free. Region 11 is supportive of that, and
They get
Mrs.
reimbursed too,
Right.
once
And-
they take the test.
Right, and Mrs. Culpepper is working with the teachers in these categories we're talking about to help them know the ways that they can receive those certifications.
And then we do work with Region 11 and some other organizations as well to make it as easy as possible to take the tests and to help them with prep and things of that nature.
Are there any other four-year?
Hey, whoop, whoop, whoop over here.
Ms. Welker?
There.
Not asking you or Meredith.
Or me, for that matter.
Oh, that's true.
That's right, I got my doctorate made in. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? You guys have to vote on the waiver.
Yeah.
We need a motion.
Do we have a motion to approve the ESL and bilingual exception?
I recommend we approve the ESL and bilingual exception waiver for Decatur ISD for the 24-25 school year.
I have a motion from Sandy. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Jeremy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, 11B, discuss and take possible action regarding the District Improvement Plan 2024-2025. Back to you, Dr. Wooten. You might as well just stay up there.
Okay, let me find this one. I got it. Okay, so last month you received a copy of, oh, look at that, misspelled district. We're just gonna move it on up. There we go. Didn't happen. This is what happens when you're typing. So, you received a copy of the district plan, and some of you did give some feedback on some adjustments, wording, things of that nature. Plus, we constantly look at this. We've been looking at this each month. And so a few tweaks, nothing, significant, but just from, I wanted you to know every change, even if it was something as simple as and, or, there was a typo that we corrected. So in goal 2, there was an adjustment with the satisfaction survey where we talked about making sure it was maintained at or above 90%, and that was the big change there. In strategy 3, with recruitment and retention, with the survey data, we were more specific with analyzing the data, exit surveys, attendance data, and also just our participation with trying to go to career fairs and things of that nature, in addition to adding the Texas Academic Performance Reports, the TAPER, of looking at where retention and teachers that are leaving and so forth, and making comparisons with that. And then with strategy 5, DSD, that was one that was added, the Texas Teacher Incentive Allotment Program this year, to determine if this is a viable program to pursue for the 25-26 school year. And then goal 4, strategy 5, this did not change other than some of the wording. DSD will achieve and maintain the Texas Comptroller Transparency Star Awards, for which school districts are eligible by 26-27 school year. So no major changes, just a few wording, but I wanted you to have that so that it was an easy reference. And this is a action item that you're in.
Anybody, any questions for Dr. Wooten? If not,
So I got a question. This is where I brought up the agenda item for the 4 days, because when I reviewed this, I didn't see any information on our district planning of a 4-day concept. And being that it's such a big thing that we waited a year to implement, I'm surprised not to see any goals around 4-day implementation on our district plan. That's why I put it on the agenda. But I am also surprised that being that it's such a big thing for our district, why is there not one mention on here? Can it be put on there?
Yep. Well, I don't know that I have an answer for why it wasn't, other than it is a development of a calendar, and it doesn't necessarily think about it in terms of an improvement plan initiative for the district. However, we can certainly slip it back in there and bring it back next month if that's what the board would like us to do. And we know that we're moving forward with the calendar development, whether it's written there or not.
Well, so this on here has a matrix where you can verify that you have completion, right?
Yes,
Quarterly,
we have
verify.
checkpoints at November and.
So the reason we didn't do this is because several departments needed more time. And if we're not tracking this somehow, and we're halfway through the school year, I don't see it getting done. So I just think, I understand people are doing lots and lots of work, but this is the plan that is about our district for the year, and this is a very big scope of work. Every department's working on it. There's a lot of change coming, but there's no accountability measures. I just don't understand that, unless it's just being the oversight. But if it's a big deal like I think it is, it needs to be, we need to have some sort of accountability measures.
And if you want to kick it back to take this off, we can, and to put it for next month. If that's what the will of the board is. Yeah, it's got to.
Do we want to take the district plan off consent for tonight, bring it back, or action tonight, bring it back next month with a goal with strategies with regards to the 4-day calendar?
Each department, because this is not just teaching and learning. This is finance, it's operations, it's everybody. So let's have somewhere I needed some accountability measures as a board to know that we're achieving the goals to make this thing happen.
Is this not applicable to both 5-day and 4-day school?
That's my thought, is that I don't know that it makes any difference. I mean, that actually language has to be in there. The goals are the same, whether it's 4 or 5 days.
I thought there was a lot of change and we couldn't do it last year, and so it's going to take time. The whole point of us not doing it last year was because we needed more time. Well, if it takes so much time, what is taking time? What's the item? What's the burden? What's the problem?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think that this is the larger picture, is that you can take it and make it applicable to, I mean, whatever you want. This is like the bird's eye view.
Well, we can put it to a vote tonight if you want, and if the majority wants to see it passed, we can, if the majority wants to kick it down, then that we can do that, or we.
But if we've approved that plan, then doesn't that marry us automatically to a 4-day week?
No.
But I'm saying if we postpone this and add it.
That's why I personally think we need to leave it the way it is. So
Was it purposeful to leave it off the planning?
we're not specifying that it's a 5-day, it's a hybrid, or 4-day. We're not specifying at all. This is a 20,000-foot level look
Yes, just
at
like the
district.
the comptroller transparency stars. I mean, it's specific. It's an item, very specific. We're going to meet a goal of the state, and we're going to dictate what that goal is because the board has decided that's what it is. This is a very big goal that we got to achieve.
So I'm just curious, what would that goal look like? What strategy? I mean, would it be the goal is to
So each department last year gave us reasons why they could or could not produce.
I remember.
Well, just that,
So
whatever your holdup in your department, whatever your milestones are, implement them into the goal planning.
Okay,
These are goals.
Mr. Kaler, I have not in my past experiences embedded the creation of the annual calendar into an improvement plan for the district, whereas things that talk about financial accountability and student achievement and community engagement and such have been. So I want to address that it certainly was not an intentional or an oversight. It is not a practice I've ever engaged in.
Well, I'm not looking for the calendar. I'm not, we keep talking about a calendar. I get the calendar has to be voted on. Required by law, the board has to vote on a calendar. The concept of a 4-day, it can look so many different things. It depends how many minutes you want to do per day. We have to have X amount of minutes. It depends how many days we want to go and how many minutes. So we need to have more definition and define the accountability side of this.
Understand your position, and I respect that, but I think we need to bring this to a motion, and obviously we will support whatever the majority of the board votes for. So do I have a motion to approve this, the 2024-2025 District Improvement Plan?
I approve the 24-25 District Improvement Plan as presented by administration.
I have a motion from Nate. Do I have a second? Second from Matt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, the motion passes 5-1. Now we'll get to number 12. Sorry, jumped ahead a while ago. Now we're to information items, 12A, the E-rate annual report.
All right.
An E-rate is almost as much fun as
Oh,
anything
yeah.
else.
All right. I promise to keep it quick. All right. So this is a brief overview of what E-rate is. E-rate is a yearly thing for me. It goes into 2 phases, and I'll go through all of that. So we'll do a little bit of vocabulary first, which is, or some informational. E-rate is, at its core, is a government subsidy to reimburse the districts for our services that we purchase, such as internet service providers and fiber optics, things like that. It was implemented back in 1997. USAC is its overall controlling factor. The FCC was the one that initiated this. Around 2014, they decided to take away the ability to reimburse us for phone lines and cell phones, and they decided to implement more towards Wi-Fi in the classroom and more in the digital side of things. It is based off of a discount, free and reduced. It can be reimbursed. The district is only responsible for the percentage for the district. So anywhere between 20% or 10% would be the responsibility for us. At Decatur ISD, we are a 70% free and reduced for this factor, so we only pay 30% of the overall cost of whatever we purchase. Okay? Funding for it starts on July 1, and it will roll until the next year's June 30th. Items cannot start before July 1, and they cannot go past June 30th. It has been capped since 2014, 2013 at $4.1 billion, and it's never managed to go above it. They've actually kept it significantly lower than that. It categorizes into 2 options, Category 1 and Category 2. Category 1 is your main core of it, your internet access, the fiber optic connecting the campuses together, as well as the equipment necessary to make it all work, the main parts. Category 2 is what is used from wire down the walls in the classrooms to Wi-Fi in the classrooms and other things. This is a rough list of what items are out there. We run the gambit on all of them at some point in this district. Let's see here. In 2023, We ran a purchase for a firewall, access points and such, and we did a purchase of over $234,000. We only paid 30% of that. In 2024, we went out for bid again, and we did $402,000. And again, we are only responsible for 30% of that. Total spending, the way that they allot the money is based off of the student enrollment and such. They give us a certain amount of money in the purse strings to use, and it's $640,000 to use over 5 years. We have used 637, or at least we've what's the word I'm looking for? We've intentionally planned to use $637,000 worth of it, which leaves us about $2,500 left if we wanted to try to do something. Next E-rate cycle will be for the 26-27 school year. You plan for it 1 year beforehand, which is 2025. So I will be coming back to you in 2025 to do the process as normal, which is similar to other bids. We do the posting of the bid, we do the evaluation of the bids, bring it to the board for final approval, and then announce approval rate and initiate it for 26 July 1. So, yes, ma'am. Anything we can do to save money for the district, always. Is there any questions? Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. 12B, bilingual ESL evaluation 24-25. Dr. Wooten, back on deck.
Back on deck. Okay, so earlier I presented the waiver. That waiver requires action. For this is a bilingual evaluation that we have to do annually. And this does not require action or anything like that. This is information we still submit to TEA. So they have an updated report of where we are. The thing to remember is this report is based on last year. And so all the information is last year. There's not new information in here. It's just all compiled in the format that TEA has requested. And so when you look at the first page primarily deals with our demographics and where we are from, and I believe I did 5 years worth of data there to show the trends and if we've increased, if we've decreased. And so that's the first page. Academic progress. What we're looking at here is STAR. Like I said, you've seen this. We're just breaking apart our kiddos that are ESL or bilingual in each of those. And then as we get into the next round, this is our TELPAS. So TELPAS is a little bit different because we're looking at the reading, listening, speaking, and writing aspect of things. When you have kinder, first, second, third, and fourth grade with TELPAS, these are the total number of students where they are at beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And what you hope to see is that you're going to see a lot of beginners in the earlier grades, younger grades, and then you're hoping to see more of intermediate or all the way up to advanced and advanced high. And so,
We exited 24 kids in TELPAS this past year, and that is the most Rand has ever exited kids. So I just need to give a shout out to all my bilingual ESL teachers.
very good, Tanya. Absolutely. That is in this report.
Just so the board knows, is honestly, to me, harder than this one is. It is extremely hard. There's about 100 questions on that test.
And so listening proficiency rating, total number of students, and this is one chart where it's all together where you can kind of see, you want to see that gradual progression of where you get into the advanced and the advanced high as we get into more of a secondary level. Now, understand, we still get newcomers that come in at the middle school and the high school as well, but you can see some of those. And then this is the speaking proficiency. And our reading proficiency and writing. And then some of the content that we also include in the report is the professional learning plan. So we put in the LPAC administrator, PLCs with bilingual and general ed, with instructional facilitators. Also, we included the Eureka and PhD because all of this is part of listening and speaking and reading and writing. And then PLC meetings with dual language and general ed teachers. We also have some lead forward training with intentional intervention and engaging learners because that goes across the board as well. That was included. We already did the waiver, but the waiver is a component like I explained earlier. And then we're just going to continue working with all of our students, but in particular really honing in on how we get more to no longer need to be part of the program because they have reached where they need to reach to be considered proficient. And then this was with the program. I did include that in there just so it breaks it down. What you're going to see also is, it was a very tough call that was made with the bilingual program of going to just one way as opposed to two-way. And you'll notice where the English has also been tagged on to the Spanish. This was primarily more Spanish here, obviously last year, but as we transition, we'll have the flexibility, now that we're one way, to really spend whatever time we need to spend with our English to teach English to our Spanish speakers, which is exactly what TELPAS is assessing. That's pretty much the big piece of it. Material, staffing. I attached links just so you guys could see if you wanted in all your free time to look at the bilingual stipend and things of that nature. And then the conclusion, but this is what will be submitted to TEA. Like I said, it's not something that has to be approved by the board, but it is something that is required to be completed.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wooden. Are you back up here for 12C or Fine Arts report?
We have some we have some wonderful people here who have the reins of the Fine Arts program in their very capable hands. We're very proud of them.
So, yes, I'll be presenting some once I find it. And I also have two amazing ladies that also agreed to come up here with me, which is Dee Dee Desenko and Karen Hughes. Both of those are at the middle school, so they're going to talk about their particular areas of expertise. Mr. McNeil and Holly McNeil are just worn out from being rock stars all weekend. And so I'm going to present their piece of it, and I'm sure they'll chime in if I misspeak in any way, shape, or form. So this is our Fine Arts Effectiveness Report. And so what this gives the Teaching and Learning Department an opportunity to highlight some specific areas. And in this case, obviously, it's Fine Arts, which we have a lot of wonderful things to say. And so we'll skip the scorecard because you have that. So band is growing in numbers and course offerings, of course. When you're amazing, that's what happens. And so they currently have 123 members. Regional contest, October 19th in Denton. That's the one that we just had where they scored all the ones. They're moving forward to the area contest, and that is November 2nd. And their jazz band has 28 members. Regional auditions on September 5th. Students qualifying. 1 advanced to state. And then MMS has, in 6th grade, has 85 students. 7th grade has 65 students. And 8th grade has 53 students. And then we now offer dual credit music appreciation through Charleston State University, which Mr. McNeil teaches. And so when you see numbers like that have really grown pretty exponentially, it goes right to going back to the teachers that are teaching them and the individuals that spend a good block of time at their rehearsals with them and so forth. And so we are very, very fortunate in Decatur to have the teachers that we have across the board, but we're highlighting fine arts right now. And so I just want to give a shout out to them. Our choir, DHS Choir concert was held on October 1st, Region Choir on October 7th, with 27 students auditioning, 17 advancing. MMS Choir is 180 students. MMS Choir concert was held on September 23rd. UIL accolades include region sweepstakes for the last 11 years, most decorated program in the region. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. Ms. Hughes, you want to come up? Yeah, see? We may have chatted.
Well,
I'll stay right here.
hi, I'm Karen Hughes. I am the director of theater at the middle school, and I'll try to be fast. We started a theater program 3 years ago, had about 60 kids. Last year we grew to 123 kids. This year we have 165 kids in our full-day theater program. We take 24 kids to contest. Last year, I'm proud to say we came in first in our district contest. Our contest this year is in January. It will be in Stephenville, so come see us. The high school, their program is growing. My kids are feeding into their program. This year, when they put on airness, at least 12 of the kids in the staff and and cast and crew will have come from my theater program. So I'm super proud of those kids, super proud of the kids at the high school. The high school accolades include a state champion in theatrical design, which actually UIL is piloting a middle school program for theatrical design. We will be competing in that this spring as well. So hopefully we can keep building that as we go on. And quickly, high school is performing airness this weekend, the 24th to the 26th at 7 o'clock and at 2 o'clock on October. So please go see those great kids at the high school. Thank you. You're back.
Thank you.
You were good. Very precise. You're up, Dee Dee. Hello.
All right, I'm Dee Dee DeSenko. I'm at the middle school, as we stated. I'm just talking about visual arts. A couple of things that I'm especially proud of as far as our district goes is we have a K through 12 art program for visual arts. So each of the elementary schools has an art teacher with a full schedule, as does middle school and high school. Let's see, one of the big things we are doing this fall is taking part in the Dia de los Muertos Festival. Each of the students that are in art in the middle school is creating a component that's going to be on display at the ofrenda, including Katrina dolls, or the statues, and the foods for the ofrenda, and spirit animals. So each of the students has done background work on and researched what they were going to create, why it was meaningful to them, and those will all be on display there. Another thing that is happening for the first time in the middle school, since we are in a new UIL district, we are going to be competing in a district-wide art show with our Alvarado and the other schools that we compete with football and basketball, all the things. But that will be a first time for the students in the middle school group to actually compete and see work from other districts, which is pretty exciting. Things that we do district-wide, K-12, is partake in a district-wide display in May, an art show, where each of the schools puts work together and has it on display here at the admin building. And then we also have monthly displays out in the cases out there, it's middle school month, so if you want to see some middle school work, it's out there now. But each of the schools in the district has a month where they display work. Do you have any questions or anything? No? Well, come on by the art room and get in.
Thank you. We done? Okay, all right. Then we'll move on to 12D. Mrs. Watson with financial information.
If you'll turn to your financials in the book, we will go over on the general fund. This month, we're sitting at 10% of the revenue compared to 9% this time last year. So, and that is up, if you'll look at the local revenue is up as well as the state allotment. Your expenditures are down a little bit, like 0.9%. That is due to, if you'll notice on maintenance and operations, last year we had spent $1 million, this year we're sitting at 310. The difference in that is that our insurance check is due at the end of September. Well, we cut check on Fridays. October 1st was a Friday. So it'll show up and catch back up to where we would normally be in October. So right now for the year, we're sitting at an increase in fund balance of 608, but that will change as the school year goes on. And then we did a projection for this month, which is 2 pages over. Right now, we are sitting at 96.4% in attendance. We have, on average, now this number fluctuates daily, but when I did this report, we had 3,782 students. And so a refined ADA was 3,575.69, which means we're down 48 students from what we budgeted of 3624. And then if you'll look at the weighted average daily attendance is only down 11. And a lot of that is due to your special ed FTEs are up, and then your career and technology FTEs are up 65 students. So that is good. We will be monitoring that budget as the numbers increase there. So overall, we are down from what we budgeted for revenue on the state level at just $80,000. So right now, if we can keep our attendance at 96 or above, we're sitting really good for the year, for the rest of the year. So 96.4 is phenomenal. So.
And that's a credit to our principals for
Yes.
the work they're doing.
Everybody is working very diligently to get attendance up. And then you'll notice food service, we're sitting right about where we were last year with about a $40,000 profit for the month. So everything else there is running right along. Any questions?
Did we get final numbers on the last year's deficit, the final deficit? Because in the board meeting minutes or notes, it said that you were waiting to finalize stuff that rolled in September.
Yes, we actually just got through paying some more invoices that were for last year, and then the auditors come in November.
Do you have any idea where that deficit's, where we're at now, approximately?
I haven't looked at the accounts payable. We're working through those, kind of getting this year started first before we look at those. But
Okay.
it will be very shortly.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Watson. We moved to adjournment at 13 at 7:52 PM. We are adjourned.